of God appears to you today. And God said, I heard your complaint a lot. I heard you been calling on my names a lot because you really want to know the future. Because you said, just let me know what it is and I'll be happy. If God gives you a choice so that you can see your future, would you like to take that choice? I won. I am the one who just said, God, you can give it to your soul and I'm keeping mine. Because I surely don't want to know the future. Today in the gospel, Jesus tells us of what he sees happening to him. Knowing the future is pretty cool when it has to be the joy, but then there's no surprise. But what happens when suffering comes? Would you like to know the future? Would you know, like for example, you know how you're going, God forbid, you're going to get in a car accident. And how you can seize it in your mind as you're driving, the guy came out and slapped you and slow motion 3D, how your head begins shaking like this and how blood come out. Would you like us to know that? No. I don't. Which is not just in some drama, but simpler example. Example me. If God would tell me the future, God would tell me ahead that 50% of the people here at San Boniface would hate my gut when I come here. You think I would want to be here? No. Now, about you. Now, if you know when your teenagers, 14, 15, 16, begin to say word that it hurt you so bad, would you like to bring her or him into the word when they was little? You see what I'm trying to say? It hurts. And especially when we know it. Man, I'm so glad that God didn't let us know the future. But he alone does. He knows about his future. He tells us today that he will be going to Jerusalem. And in the word of Matthew, not only he suffered, but he suffered. Thank you. I let somebody pay attention during the reading. He suffered greatly. Not just suffer. I don't know. You see, when I'm reading and proclaiming the gospel, you guys read it at the same time. Maybe that's a problem. You don't hear, you don't read. Maybe that's how you just need to listen and not read it. Or maybe if you read it, then I don't have to read because your English is better than mine. So why not read? Because half of what I read, you say, I got no clue what he's saying anyway, Father. He suffered greatly. Man, walking with the guy, eating with him, and knowing him, the guy, how he's gonna betray you. That's a lot of courage. And probably God alone can do that. What happened? If you sit in there, you're laying on bed with your spouse, and you see how she cheated or he cheated on you. Man, let me tell you, there's no suffering greater than that. Jesus, eating with the man, chose him, took him under his wing, taught him, knowing that he's going to betray. And guess what? Still love him. Amazing. Amazing. God alone can do that. Suffering is something that you and I don't want to talk about because it hurts. But how do we overcome all these suffering, all these terrible things happen to ourselves and to others? I tell you what we could do. I was recently reading a book by a woman, a Jewish woman. She tells about her story that when she was 13, when World War II broke out, that she was starving and beaten to the point of death. And there was a 25-year-old young man met her, and he carried her in his shoulder, walking about 2.5 miles under the snow. And she said, I can vividly remember how the snow slowly took over the collar of his brown jacket. To take me to a train station where he bought me a ticket, where he paid for my meal, and then he said, go, your future is great. I remember how in that 2.5 miles walking, he tells me how he himself have suffered. That how he lost his mother, that how he lost his father, that how he lost his brother, and by the age of 13, he was an orphan. And he tells me is about how great that he oversees them because he knows God has a plan for him in the future. And that's why he was in the seminary at that time, learning to become a priest. 50 years later, that 13 years old girl became a retiring, or we call it prime timer now. She began to go back and show them. She said, I vividly remember his name because it sounded like a girl's name. And I knew he was back in the seminary back there, so I was searching for him as a priest. She couldn't find him as a priest. She found him as Pope John Paul II. Carol Wojtyła. That story is what God had in mind for us. If we just set our mind on the great thing that God had for us, we can overcome obstacles. And obstacles and suffering came from different forms in life. Even great people could become an obstacle. And today we got the dude. His name is Peter. He was an obstacle for Christ to be able to complete his mission. You and I in our life, many times out of the moment, out of the emotional, the feelings that we have advised or said to our good friends or family member, and we have become an obstacle for them to reach the potential that God has intended for them. Because we don't want them to go through suffering. Peter could be the leader, but he's no master. So am I. I could be the leader of this church, but I'm no master. So I'm here to tell you, if whatever I do, whatever the decisions that I make for this faith family, that become an obstacle, become a warn that stop you from reaching the full potential or to worship God rightly, please tell me, get out of my way. I could be the leader, but I am no master. But if you could be nicely said it the way Peter said today, he took Jesus aside. Well, you see, I identify myself some way with Peter and Paul. I have a hot temper like Peter, and I have the zeal for God's people, the missionary, the preaching of the word, the reaching out like Paul. So I too need to learn how to be Peter, taking Jesus aside. But if you couldn't do that because you couldn't be Peter, then for God said some way, somehow said it, and let me know. Say, Father, you have become an obstacle for me to reach God. My dear beloved families member, I'm so grateful that you even here on Lebanon, because I know a lot of people now are at the beach doing the vacations. And I always love people when they ask me, when I go on vacation, do I have to go to church? I said, no, you never have to go to church. You want to go to church. But yes, you don't have to go to church as long as from where you're on vacation to the church is farther or longer than from your house to that place. Because if you can drive that long to go on vacation, you surely can drive that long to meet God. So are we saying the vacation is more important than God? So I told him that. And then when I said that, people said, oh, can I go to Mass on TV? Because a lot of people do that nowadays, right? There's a TV Mass. I said, absolutely. You surely can go to TV Mass. Who said that? No. The church never talks anything about that. So that means it's good. My only concern to you is this: when you die, God will say, here's the TV with the HDMI, and we even the curve, this is weird, and then back then the TV was curved out. And then you pay 3 arms and a leg for the flat, and now they're about to curve in. So God will give you an HDMI, whatever, with the HDMI cable, with the Blu-ray, DVDs, whatever that is, connect to the direct TV, and God said, take this TV, go down to hell, turn it on, and look heaven. He said, well, you've been watching it, now you can go down there and watch heaven in HD, and Blu-ray. Oh, Jesus. My dear beloved friend, sometimes I try to be a funny answer, but it conveys the truth. A truth of the personal connection through suffering and health. Didn't all of you, when you married, you were made the promise through goodness and health, through sickness and health, through good and through bad. That's why he came down. People said, why did he have to do that? Well, because he wanted to save us. I said, then he could create you and me out of nothing. He could have snapped the finger and said, I want all of them to be saved and all will be saved, right? He didn't have to come down and identify with our pain and suffering. The physical pain, the physical suffering, the emotional, the betrayal. How often in our life we have been betrayed before? So my dear beloved family, yes, we could overcome the suffering if we set our eyes on the resurrection. Today, Matthew recorded, Jesus said how he's going to be suffer, die, but then on the third day he rises again. That's the destination, not the death, not the suffering. So if you and I, we can set our sight on that, the heavenly kingdom, that's where you and I can be. And I keep repeating myself, and I mean no one could stop you.